Hey, Nick.
Hello, Warwick.
Hello, listeners. I'm
Hello.
feeling nervous. You're grinning like this is actually a good one, Coxie.
I don't know that I would go quite that far, Warwick. Please don't set me up for a failure before I even begin. But I have been moonlighting
Oh, okay.
and sharing my jokes with more than just our listeners.
All righto.
I recently told a very bad chemistry joke, though.
Okay.
Didn't get much of a reaction.
G'day, I'm Woz.
And I'm Nick, sometimes Coxie, mostly Nick.
This is the Tradies in Business podcast, and we're here to share a bunch of tips, ideas, tactics that you can put in place to get change happening in your trade business right now.
If you're really lucky, we're going to entertain you with a few mum jokes and, more importantly, a bunch of fantastic guests that will educate you in all things you need to know about trade business. But we do promise to do it with a whole bunch of fun along the way.
I'm a self-confessed idiot, so strap yourself in and enjoy another episode. Oh my gosh, they're getting better or worse? I'm not sure, Nick.
I don't know. Take your pick. Listener feedback would be great. Or send me your listener jokes. I'd love to be able to share some of your best ones. This will start because it's someone else's podcast, isn't it?
Yeah, and I think nobody sends jokes to you because they just like to hear yours because they're so amazing.
Got a couple of our lady tradiepreneur members that send me some jokes from time to time over on Instagram or a couple via Facebook sometimes. They're my better one. So if I'm running out of better material, it's because you listeners are not sending me jokes to share.
Well, I'm going to have a crack at a segue, and it's going to be pretty lame, I think, because I'm under the pump here, Coxie. But maybe we need an apprentice to join us. They'd do a better job of telling the jokes.
They could do the research for me. Well, they go to stroke paint the left-handed screwdriver.
Yeah. Righto, listeners. We're talking apprenticeships today, as you know, by the episode title. I'm pretty keen to talk to our guest today because I think there's a fair bit of confusion and probably a lot of negativity about apprenticeships, and I'm hoping we can clear some of that up today because I think it's still a great opportunity for tradie business owners. Jeff Cooke, welcome to the podcast, mate.
Thanks for having me. Thanks.
Pleasure, mate. That's probably our pleasure. I don't think it's your pleasure after that intro. Jeff, tell us a bit about you first, mate, before we get into the nuts and bolts of the apprentices and incentives and everything. How did you come to be doing what you're doing and living where you're living? What's a bit of your backstory, mate?
Yeah, sure. So I'm born and bred in Sydney originally. So grew up there, went to school there, played sport, all that sort of stuff, and had a lot of family up in that Newcastle Lake Victoria area in New South Wales. I always had an aim to sort of get out of the rat race and move out of there. So I've been with Apprenticeship Support now for 14 years, and about 8 years ago had an opportunity to move up coast and take a position we had up here. Over my life, I've done a bit of work in banking, bit of the backpacker industry, car rental, a lot of customer service type jobs, in some vehicle fleet. So I've always been in and around apprentices. I used to manage a workshop that had apprentices in it. So I enjoyed sort of that mentoring side of things. And then, somehow a friend of mine was working with this organisation some years ago and told me a bit about it. And sort of that's it. I sort of joined and used to run around Sydney a fair bit, signing up apprentices, and then started managing a couple of the teams and then got the opportunity to move up here to the Hunter, as we call it, so not looking back, I love being out of that rat race, even though Newcastle getting very busy. I really enjoy it. Just a good feeling where we're helping not only the young people get into trades and traineeships, we're helping people of all ages change their career and get opportunity to train up and still up.
I can imagine it'd be a very rewarding career, actually, helping people find their pathway.
Yeah, definitely. There is a lot of, these very KPI-driven government and smaller numbers, more apprentices, but it comes with those, definitely those rewards. So just seeing, we come across some really good stories of, people that have run my upbringing and just to see them get into a career that they want to do and achieve and actually complete, willing to go.
Jeff, we see a lot of resistance from employers to take on an apprentice because they don't know what they don't know and they get a little bit fearful, I suppose, of what might be involved with taking on an apprentice. Can you Maybe tell us some of the benefits of having an apprentice in your business.
Yeah, sure. So, a lot of employers, there's still some employers out there think it's cheap labour. Let's get around this. We need that cheap labour. We need someone to help, carry the bricks and sweep the floor and so on. But it's, it's all about, I guess, building future-proofing their business, getting someone in that we can mould to help do what you do every day. And it's also really important, I guess, to pass your skills on. So what we try and do is, to employees, you basically help them with that massive skill shortage of the country. Take them on an apprentice. You've got someone you can train up the way you want them to train for your business, and potentially, someone to take over your business later on when it's time, to hang up the tools, and you've got someone there ready made that you've trained that knows your business to pass on that skill to.
Jeff, what are the steps? So, I'm a small business owner. In fact, maybe it's just me, and I've realised I could really use some help. Where should I start looking, and how do I find an apprentice? And then where do I go to from there?
Yeah, sure. So finding an apprentice is hard. About 50% of apprentices get their jobs by word of mouth. So your really large employers that do an intake of apprenticeships every year, they'll advertise and seek. For their apprenticeships, they'll do it mid-year and they'll recruit for 6 months. A lot of your smaller tradies will, they won't spend $500 or $1,000 on a seek ad. You've got apprentices that will reach out to, friends of the family, their parents are trading, and that's how that'll get connected. Schools are a great source of finding new friends and training. So reach out to your local school. They'll advertise. They've all got a Facebook page. They'll advertise on their Facebook page, and social media is huge as well. So all those local, sort of social media pages, especially on Facebook. You not only have employees reaching out on there for apprentices or trainees, you've also got potential apprentices and trainees or their parents that like to reach out. So that's where we find the majority of them are hiring their apprentices just through that social media word of mouth stuff. And then the other side is, those will put an ad, on the likes of Seek to try and, I guess, branch out and find a huge cohort that they can go through and recruit, I guess, the best of the best, let's say. So that's where you would start, I guess, in finding an apprentice or trainee. What a lot of businesses don't realise is especially if you're a tradie for the first, you're trading, you're taking on your first apprentice, it's just knowing all the other nuts and bolts. So, what do I have to pay an apprentice? Do I have to pay them super? Do I have to be qualified? So there's something missed, all those license trades that are out there, electrician, carpentry. Each state has laws around, having an apprentice and following their contractor's license. So we can help sort of guide with that sort of stuff. Around the sort of wages and conditions, some employers might be members of, member organisations provide that advice. Otherwise, we have to sort of direct them to fair work. And we don't sort of give them that sort of wage or condition advice, more about guiding where they need to go to find that out. And having all those ducks need to be in a row before they actually start recruiting, taking apprentice on. And the rules are different in each state. They are governed by a state government body in each state. So we're also there to help guide them, and we work side by side with those state entities, especially ensure everyone's meeting those requirements.
Okay. So we talked to a lot of tradies who are tossing up between, getting a qualified person on or getting an apprentice on. And there's often that concern that they're not going to be as productive because they're going to be doing all this teaching and training and everything. Is that a real problem that they should be addressing, or have you got some tips or some guidance on how they can actually make that work for them?
Yeah, so most apprentices are going to be very productive in that first 12 months, especially. Now they're going to spend a bit of their time off the job, having to attend their off-the-job training. That could be going to a TAFE campus, or there's a lot of private organisations now on the work site. So it's definitely a challenge in that first, say 12 to 23 months with an apprentice. They need constant supervision. They're not making you money; they're generally costing you money. So it's definitely a challenge. But I guess it definitely is. It's cheaper. It is on the cheaper side than getting a tradie. And what we hear from a lot of traders is they can't find qualified people to bring to their business, so they have to grow their own by taking the apprentice on. It's extremely hard in some cases how to get someone qualified to come in. with a lot of people using out of a lot of where it's grows.
Yep. So, Jeff, sorry, Nick.
Yeah,
Back to
single episode.
Sure. We need to hold up little things, so it's like my turn, your turn. Jeff, I hear a lot of, well, it's hearsay. There's a lot of hearsay floating around, barbecue talk about what incentives are out there or not out there, and that, the whole apprentice scheme is stuffed. There's no point, there's no money in it. It's a waste of time. Can you just clear up some of that? And that might be true, but can you clear up some of that for us?
Yeah, so part of that definitely is true. There was a big change to those incentives on the 1st of July this year. Look back to 2020 when COVID hit. A lot of apprentices went on hold or got cancelled. So sort of very quickly, the government introduced a wage subsidy to keep apprentices in their jobs. And that was 50%. So they were offering employers 50% wage subsidy they can claim back every quarter, keep their apprentices in their position. That sort of stemmed the flow of a bit of those cancellations in those sort of first months of COVID. October 2020, they basically introduced a brand new incentive of 50% for taking on a brand new apprentice. So if you're on an apprentice, you were getting 50% of your wage covered. It was only up to a certain amount. So if you had an existing tradie in your business and wanted to upskill another trade, you don't get this capped. The big thing with that is they also had commencement incentives, completion incentives, out of mature age incentive. All of that was still around, and this was on top of that. So it was green on the top. That went right up to the 30th of June 2022. And then that sort of stopped. So the government obviously given out a fair bit of money. And then they basically changed sort of the way it would work. They split sort of apprentices and trainees into two cohorts. They have what's called an Australian Apprentice Priority List. And that priority list are qualifications that they deem are the highest priority in the country. And most of those qualifications are trades, there's a handful of other qualifications like childcare and aged care and some of those healthcare qualifications. So they were then given what's called a priority wage subsidy. So it went from that 50% down to 10% in that first 12 months. They then get another 10% in the second 12 months and 5% in the third 12 months. Those qualifications that didn't sit on that list, so popular ones were our real estate and business, hospitality, they were getting what's called a hiring incentive, which is more about bringing new staff on, and they got two payments in that first 12 months up to $3,500. If we wind back the clock before COVID, the apprenticeship incentives were about $4,000 on average. So you can see where the massive change went over the couple of years, and then it dropped all the way down. From the 1st of July this year, the big change was they're just no longer funding from a federal government perspective. They're not funding those non-priority qualifications. So they're just funding, pretty much most of the trades. They've taken the wage subsidy away, and it's now called a priority hiring incentive. So in that first 12 months, they get if they're a full-time apprentice or trainee, then they'll basically get two payments, one at 6 months at $2,000 and one at 12 months at $3,000. So it's basically $5,000 in total. So it has, it's definitely dropped under the sort of priority wage subsidy. It was up to about $6,000 per year they were getting. So you can see that's where you hear that negativity out there, that there was so much funding and then it's sort of drying up a little bit as we go. That's sort of in place as a bit of a step down from the government. They are doing a review this year. So by the end of this year, numbers of apprentices and training drop, wouldn't surprise them come next budget, they might make a change again.
I feel like if you're listening to this, don't delay putting on an apprentice just because you think you might get some money next year, because you know what governments are like. It's very likely not to happen, right?
Right, chop it again.
Yeah. Jeff, what support is available to me as a business owner if I wanted to take on an apprentice? It can be pretty confronting, particularly as a first step if we've not done it before. Are there some places I can go to for support, or are there some support services that are accessible to me?
Yeah, definitely. So that's what we do is we're now known as an Apprentice Connect Australia provider. That's our sort of the new name. Every state has about anywhere between 2 and 4 companies that deliver these services. We're based across the country in each state except for the 2 territories. So basically our job, number one, is they touch base with us. we've taken through what they need to do to get started, get them all set up on the system. We do some assessments prior now. So, talk about, what the needs are of an apprentice and employee. Because as I said, an employee that's never had an apprentice before hasn't got a clue really what to do. So we take them through the steps of what they need to do to get everything set up. We're then arrange like a face-to-face meeting to complete all the government paperwork. So we're going to do all that paperwork, get them all signed up, liaise with the training provider, get all that set up. And then from that point, it's all about, during that sort of first set of assessments, is who do we think needs that extra support as we go throughout. And there's basically some tailored support. So for apprentices, things like art repair or extra support for those that have like complex issues. They might have health issues, might be having trouble outside the workplace, give them some career guidance, advice, and something we can set up like peer networks. And if we come across apprentices that are really struggling with mental health, we'll refer them to different mental health providers, all that sort of stuff beyond our scope. And then for an employer side of things, we'll provide that support around understanding what their roles and responsibilities are as an employer of an apprentice. Work with them on strategies to make sure they're supervising and managing their apprentice correctly. And we'll also, connect them to the training and the support services they might need outside of what we can do. It's important to note that probably a lot of employers take their apprentices on directly, don't employ them directly, but there is other organisations known as group training organisations and a group or a GTO. And a GTO, they'll actually do all the recruitment, employ the apprentice trainee, and then they'll post them out to an employer. So if someone's looking for that, I guess an easier way to do it and have that extra support level, they can actually hire their apprentice through one of those GTO organisations. They'll still engage someone like us to come and do all that paperwork with the group training company. It does cost a bit more, but you're actually paying a premium to have that service.
Mm-hmm.
It's definitely a really good option. Someone's really not sure, but maybe they're worried about supporting the apprentice for 4 years, or they don't want to have to do all the paperwork that's involved in paying super and tax and all that sort of stuff. So there's definitely plenty of support out there, and they can start with someone like us and we can sort of guide them where they need to go.
Jeff, if I use a support service like yours as an employer, is there a cost to me for that?
There isn't, no. So we're fully funded by the federal government. So everything that we do breaks service to employment funds.
Okay, fantastic. Are there some guidelines for employers on when the right time to hire an apprentice might be?
Yeah, not really guidelines. There is a bit of a myth around usually getting an apprentice either at the end of the year or the start of the year. So it's no surprise our busiest time is January, January, February, when sort of that traditional TAPE training will start. However, you can start an apprentice at any time. They may not be able to commence their off-the-job training. If they're attending an TAPE campus, they might have to wait till July or February to start. However, there's a stack of private training organisations now that deliver a lot of the trades, and they'll commence the training straight away because they're not waiting for a TAPE class to start in July or February. They'll start delivering that training via online and workbooks, and then they'll come out on site. So they definitely can take them on at any time. And the funding doesn't change. It's based on when you start. If that's the funding that's in place every year.
Nice. So we've talked a bit about the financial incentives, Jeff, and obviously the support. Are there some other benefits other than cheap labour, tongue in cheek, to actually bringing an apprentice into your business?
Yeah, I think so. Some of the things some of the success stories we see out there is you might have a tradie that's in their 40s and 50s and they have never had an apprentice before, so they're bringing a younger person in. Sometimes that younger person had some good ideas. That sometimes that apprentice becomes their social media manager. Their person for advertising because now they're good at the social media side of things. We've seen some really good stories like that where they've come into their business and they've helped them with some of that technology that they've sort of never been around before, and maybe trying to change that old school mentality. That's some of the really good stuff that I'm seeing. And it's really nice to see some of those tradies that are in their sort of mid to late 20s that decide they want to give back. They said, I went to a really good experience in my apprenticeship. Now I want to take one on myself. There are also some really good stories to see. As said, and it's about sort of creating that legacy. I think for not only for their business, but also for just for getting impressing those skills.
I think it's something that, it's a timing issue for trade business owners, of course, but I think it's something that everybody should factor into their business planning of that internal growth, as you said, Jeff, or internal development. Finding qualified staff is more challenging than it has been for a while. So, basically building your own team from the inside out makes sense if you have any aspirations to improve your business and achieve that sort of freedom that we talk about here on the podcast. Getting an apprentice is a fantastic way to do that because although they bring some of their own challenges, as generally they're younger people, and you sort of become their third parent or fourth parent or something sometimes. You're certainly training them in the way you want things done with your systems, with your culture, your values. And I think it's a really important thing to factor into anybody's growth plans that's listening to this episode. Jeff, there's a question I love to ask our guests, and that is, if you had 1,000 trade business owners in a room, what's one piece of advice you'd love to leave them with, mate?
Good question. I'd probably tell, I'm selling the apprenticeship trade for them, so I'd probably, tell them, please take an apprentice on. If we don't, we're just talking skill shortage for years to come. So I think definitely trying to sell them that, there's apprenticeship good for their business and it's worth taking them on. Otherwise, at the end of the day, we all need trades to do certain things, to help with housing and that sort of stuff. So we're all going to suffer if we don't build that skill shortage. It's just going to cost us more to fix our car and get our door unlocked and housing built. So that'd be my advice. Take an apprentice on, help build the future for our skills in our country.
Nice, mate. Now, Jeff, if someone's listening to this and they want to tap into the support that's available, obviously particularly through you, what's the best place for them to go and find that?
Yeah, so just on our website. So it's basically just www.apprenticeshipsupport.com.au. All the information on the website. We have a contact phone number they can get a hold of us in each of those states. And we're based in sort of a lot of major cities and spread out in the regions as well. We generally have someone locally who will come out and visit face-to-face across all the states in the country.
Good stuff.
Thanks, Jeff.
Jeff, some great information in there for our listeners. If you've been on the fence about an apprentice, perhaps now is the time to pull your finger out and do something about it before the incentives go away even more. But it's not just about that, of course, as you've said, Jeff. So thanks for your time on the show today, mate. Appreciate it.
All right, thanks so much, Nick and Wallace. Thanks for having me.
Thanks, Jeff.
Pleasure.